The Byzantine Empire in the 11th century, though still a formidable power, was experiencing internal strife and external pressures that weakened its stability. The death of Emperor Basil II in 1025 marked the beginning of a period of decline. Subsequent emperors such as Constantine IX struggled with internal rebellions and the challenge of maintaining control over the vast territories of the empire. The Seljuk Turks, originally a nomadic people from Central Asia, began their rise to power in the 10th and 11th centuries. They established a powerful state and expanded their territory into Persia, Iraq, and Syria. The Seljuks were Sunni Muslims who sought to expand their influence and control over the Islamic world. By the mid-11th century, the Seljuks had become a significant threat to the Byzantine Empire. Under the leadership of Alp Arslan, the Seljuks embarked on campaigns into Anatolia, seeking to expand their territory and weaken Byzantine control. In 1068, Romanos IV Diogenes took power and became Emperor of the Byzantine Empire. He recognized the Seljuk threat and sought to reassert Byzantine control over Anatolia. He appointed Manuel Komnenos to lead an expedition against the Seljuks. Manuel's expedition began well. He won a few victories, including the capture of Manbij, a city in northern Syria. But later, he was defeated and captured by the Seljuks. Despite this success for the Seljuks, Alp Arslan quickly sought a peace treaty with the Byzantines, which was signed in 1069. The Seljuk leader saw the Fatimids in Egypt as his main enemy and had no desire to be diverted by unnecessary hostilities. 2 years later, in February 1071, Emperor Romanos sent envoys to Arslan to renew the 1069 treaty. However, the peace treaty had been a deliberate distraction. Romanos now led a large army into Armenia, aiming to recover lost fortresses and reduce Seljuk influence in the region. The total size of the army was some 40,000 men. The army consisted of about 10,000 professional Byzantine troops from various provinces. Accompanying Romanos was Andronikos Doukas, the son of his rival John Doukas. He commanded the rear guard, which was largely made up of the private retinues and peasant levies of the border lords. The remainder of the army was made up of a diverse host of men from Eastern Europe and the South Caucasus region. The government had diverted funding to mercenaries who were judged less likely to be involved in politics and could be disbanded after use to save money. The march was long and difficult. The expedition reached Theodosiopolis in June 1071. The Byzantine generals were divided on whether to stay put and fortify their position or to continue marching. But thinking that Alp Arslan was either further away or not coming at all, Romanos marched towards Lake Van, expecting to retake Manzikert quickly and the nearby fortress of Kliat if possible. To do this, the Byzantines split their force in half, one to attack Kliat and one to retake Manzikert. This reduced the size of Romanos' army to 20,000. However, Alp Arslan was already nearby, along with some 40,000 troops. Alp Arslan's scouts knew exactly where Romanos was, while Romanos was completely unaware of his opponent's movements. Alp Arslan summoned his army and delivered a speech. This was an encouraging message that he was ready to die in battle. On the 23rd of August, Romanos and his army reached Manzikert. The Seljuks responded with attacks by horse archers. These horse archers were eventually driven back by Byzantine archers. Romanos was still unaware that the main Seljuk force was nearby. The next day, Byzantine foraging parties discovered the main Seljuk force and were forced to retreat to Manzikert. Once hearing the news, Romanos sent the Armenian general Basilakes and some cavalry, as Romanos did not believe this was Alp Arslan's full army. In a hopeless attack, the Byzantine cavalry attacked the Seljuks. The cavalry was soon routed and Basilakes was taken prisoner. The Seljuk forces then hid among the nearby hills for the night, making it nearly impossible for Romanos to counterattack. The next day, some of Romanos' Turkic mercenaries came into contact with their Seljuk kin and deserted. Despite these setbacks, Romanos rejected a Seljuk peace emissary as he wanted a decisive military victory. He knew that raising another army would be both difficult and expensive. Romanos then attempted to recall the second half of his army that he had sent to Kliat, but he received no word from them. On the 26th of August, the Byzantine army gathered itself into a proper battle formation and began to march on the Seljuk positions. Andronikos Doukas led the reserve forces in the rear. A foolish mistake by the emperor, considering the dubious loyalties of the Doukas family. The Seljuks were organized into a crescent formation about 4 kilometers away. Seljuk Horse Archers attacked the Byzantines as they drew closer. The main Seljuk army slowly retreated back at the same pace of the Byzantine advance. The Byzantines pressed on despite the arrow attacks and captured Alp Arslan's camp by the end of the afternoon. However, the right and left wings, where the arrows did most of their damage, almost broke up when individual units tried to force the Seljuks into a pitched battle. The Seljuk cavalry simply disengaged when challenged. With the Seljuks avoiding battle, Romanos was forced to order a withdrawal by nightfall. However, the right wing misunderstood the order, and Doukas deliberately ignored the emperor's order to cover the army's withdrawal and marched directly back to the Byzantine camp outside Manzikert, without waiting for the main force. With the Byzantines confused and their force smaller in size and more vulnerable, the Seljuks seized the opportunity and attacked. The Byzantine right wing was almost immediately routed, thinking they were betrayed either by the Armenians or the army's Turkish auxiliaries. The left wing under Bryennius held out a little longer, but was also soon routed. The remnants of the Byzantine centre, including the Emperor and the Varangian Guard, were encircled by the Seljuks. Romanos was wounded and taken prisoner. The rest of the Byzantine army either fled or were killed, and by the end of the battle, around 6,000 Byzantine troops were dead and over 4,000 were captured. The Seljuks suffered fewer casualties, perhaps a few thousand. After the battle, Emperor Romanos was brought to Alp Arslan. Alp Arslan placed his boot on the emperor's neck and forced him to kiss the ground, a traditional symbolic gesture at the time. Alp Arslan then treated Romanos with considerable kindness and again offered the terms of peace that he had offered before the battle. It was agreed that Antioch, Edessa, Hierapolis and Manzikert were to be surrendered to the Seljuks. Alp Arslan also asked for 1.5 million gold pieces as an initial payment, followed by an annual sum of 360,000 gold pieces. Plus, a marriage alliance was prepared between Alp Arslan's son and Romanos' daughter. Romanos was then escorted back to Constantinople by 100 Mamluk warriors. The Seljuk victory over the Byzantine Empire demonstrated to European Christians that Byzantine forces were not capable of protecting Eastern Christianity. This battle would eventually lead to the First Crusade in 1095.